Thank you very much. And thank you for the AEZO on behalf of the A-Trade group. I appreciate for inviting me to this important forum. Let me start first just to give a brief overview of these three logos you are looking at. The A-Trade group, which I think most of you are familiar with, is essentially having a mission to use the ICTs, including fast emerging technologies in logistics and transport, to facilitate trade through e-commerce. And the topic we're discussing today is how smart logistics would facilitate trades and connect the special economic zones. So we're going to have several key points, what smart logistics is and how it could facilitate trade and how it can connect special economic zones and promote implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. So the A-Trade group actually, in order to facilitate this, as I said, it's using ICTs and advanced technologies that basically enhance logistics, fulfillment, and transport. But when we say trade, obviously we have to have a platform. And it has established what's known as Sokuku Africa, which you see there on the left, which is the Pan-African e-commerce platform in partnership with the African Union. It was launched actually last July. And on the right side, what you see is the AE-Trade Learning Center logo. The previous speaker actually talked about training, on the technical side. But the aim of this learning center, which is A-Trade group established in partnership with a university in Canada, known as Concordia University, is to provide the technical and managerial skills to the SMEs, small and medium enterprises and entrepreneurs, and essentially, on business skills, basic core business skills like management, leadership, and technical skills on how to use e-commerce. So these are three, establishments which I want to make sure, we are on the same page as we go forward. So today we're going to talk about the A-Logistics and Fulfillment Group, and as I said, how it can facilitate trade, and essentially by using smart logistics. Now, again, this is just a broad picture of the African A-Trade group, the electronic trade group. The website there I showed, it will give you more detailed information if you are interested in. It basically leverages the power of ICTs to enhance intra and inter-African trade. And it launched Pan-African e-commerce platform, which is Sokuku Africa, I mentioned earlier, in partnership with the African Union in July 2020. That's the digital platform, basically for the e-commerce. And it advances the mission of AFCFTA and enhances development of the SEZs. It promotes trade, industrialization, investment, and economic growth in Africa. And it enhances entrepreneurship and job creation. It provides several value-added services, actually, which, some of them we can go over later on, like the logistics fulfillment and transport service, the e-government service, education and training, which I mentioned earlier, cybersecurity, cloud computing, application development, supply chain management, and others. Now, since we're talking about smart logistics, we have to be on the same page, what it means. Essentially, I don't know if you see the full screen because there is overlap, I guess, on some of the pictures. Do you see the full slide? You do, right? Okay. What do we mean by smart logistics? I mean, these days, there are so many smart things. I'm sure smart cities, smart streets, and so on and so on. But there is one thing common to all of them, and that's technology, what makes them smart. In fact, even machines have become really smart every day because of these emerging technologies. like artificial intelligence, and we'll talk more later on, which gives the machines even the ability to reason out, make decisions, and even predictions. So, these technologies are literally revolutionizing,
Et même donc la capacité de prendre des décisions et sont en train de révolutionner.
Okay, yeah. So, what do smart logistics do? They
connexion Internet ne
they
fonctionne
are
pas bien.
advanced, transparent, and integrated supply chain system
À quoi sert la logistique intelligente?
for effective planning,
Eh bien, c'est ainsi.
control, and execution of production, supply, distribution, transport, and delivery of goods and services to customers. I mean, you see here a lot of buzzwords here, but essentially what it means is starting from planning to the management, the control and execution of production, supply, distribution, and transport and delivery of goods in the end to the customers. We're applying technology, to make sure it's done cost effectively, efficiently, and basically deliver the goods and services to customers. So that's, in a nutshell, that's really what differentiates the conventional logistics, which you have been used to, and make it smarter now. It features digitalization, automation, connectivity, and real-time monitoring, tracking, and information services. It's basically about making data-driven decisions. And that's why, in fact, the technology comes in. There's a lot of automation going on and connectivity in the supply chain, starting from all the way from the production, going to supply, transport, and delivery. There's a technology component, connecting these supply chain entities. And then the key is getting the information at the right time, at the right place. And this is real time, as it goes. And that it's very quick. And the technologies enable, this supply chain system to be smarter, and everybody, within that supply chain gets the real time information needed for their decision. And what's really amazing now is e-commerce is fueling this global trade growth and the need for smart logistics. Call it e-logistics, e-fulfillment, integrated TMS, which is transportation management system, and efficient delivery services. And as you may know, e-commerce is really literally exploding even in Africa. And in today, in fact, because of even COVID, e-commerce is fast growing, globally, and consumers are essentially ordering things online instead of going to the stores or doing the conventional way. It has changed the lives of many, and this has basically brought disruptive features in the supply chain, because it has to be competitive, it has to be delivered in the right product at the right time and the right place, and that's really what e-commerce is about. Essentially, you're at the comfort of your home, you can order things to come to you, and consumers have become very demanding. They want it right away and quickly. Things like even food, which we're not used to it, especially in the West. Instead of going to grocery now, you can order even online and get even fresh food, milk, eggs, whatever. So you want it delivered quick, and that's how really e-commerce is basically affecting or changing, the social economic fabric of the world around us. And all this is happening because of technology too. E-trade will play a leading role in advancing e-commerce and trade through smart logistics in Africa. Now, coming to Africa, I think earlier there was a question whether Africa is even changing, or adapting to these technologies. The previous speaker mentioned it. Actually, Africa, despite all the challenges in infrastructure and all other issues, is quickly adapting even to e-commerce. And the beauty about e-commerce is anyone way down in the countryside, as long as they have some smartphone or internet connection, and if they start some business, they can easily and quickly get actually a market, not only around their places, their communities, or around Africa, for that matter, even globally. They can reach out even to the global market. That's how literally, e-commerce is changing, and this is happening as we speak, even in Africa, because of the growth of smartphones and internet access. Despite all the challenges, which we're going to talk later on, e-commerce is fast growing even in Africa, and essentially boosting trade, which is what we're talking about. And AETRADE has established innovative research and development center to keep pace with fast-growing ICT trends. As I said, the aim and the mission of AETRADE is to facilitate trade through smart logistics and fulfillment and transport services. Obviously, it has to catch up with the fast-growing technologies and make sure, Africa also benefits from these fast-growing technologies. Again, aside from the infrastructure or payment or other issues we're talking about, which we can discuss later, E-Trade is basically moving ahead to make sure Africa is not going to fall behind on the technology front, and innovate its logistics and transportation systems. And one of the things we have to make sure we implement a smart logistics system is really develop a network-based integrated transportation management system that connects transportation, supply chain, and logistics. And that's really vital. Transportation is the heart of the logistics network. And that transportation management system has to have the latest technologies to make sure the tracking, the monitoring of the goods, the vehicles, and the delivery is done systematically, and the information is collected in real time and given to the supply chain entities whenever they need it at any time. And E-Trade is essentially, that's what it's planning to do, and it's going to be essentially ahead, on integrating and developing this kind of systems. Now, on the next bullet, I mentioned some of the technologies which are really revolutionizing, the logistics and fulfillment and transport systems. One of them, actually, it's not new, the ITS. I am an ITS expert myself. I have done work for many years in ITS. It's called the Intelligent Transportation Systems. And what ITS does is essentially use ICTs or emerging technologies to modernize the transportation system. And Africa was lagging behind in some ways, especially sub-Saharan Africa, with the possible exception of South Africa, in implementing ITS. But there is a lot of progress in the last few years, including in Ethiopia and Nigeria. South Africa has a well-established ITS system, and we call it ITS Society, but two other countries now, Nigeria and Ethiopia, have also established their own ITS societies, and basically impacting, change in the transportation infrastructure. So ITS is really vital in many ways, for trade facilitation, which is critical even for the SEZs and for the implementation of the ACFTA. It promotes regional integration. It makes goods and services delivery very efficient, and it helps even in borders, border clearance, such as electronic clearance, customs clearance, which is very common now, has been in Europe or in US, like for instance, the free trade agreement between Canada, Mexico, and US. They have a well-established commercial vehicle information systems network. It's called CVision, which they share information on truck movement, goods safety, and border clearance, and so on. And that's really key for Africa. In fact, that will help the infrastructure development, especially now with African Union leading the SCFTA implementation and A-Trade being part of it. And there are so many other players. Definitely, developing or deploying intelligent transportation systems will be key. Now, the next one, which is AI, the artificial intelligence, that's literally revolutionizing and changing, the landscape of industries and trade. As I mentioned earlier, in real-time information, or machines are learning, as I said, to collect huge data and essentially analyze and decide and predict. and artificial intelligence in many cases actually is around us in our life. It has been there, but it's really changing the whole landscape of even trading and e-commerce and economic activities in general. And the core function of AI, just to give you the a high level view, is essentially the collection of data, huge data, and analyzing, deciding, and predicting. Like, let's take, for instance, one example in the context of logistics. If you have products, millions of products, for instance, being imported into Africa from Europe, China, US, or everywhere, and if you want to know information, where those products are, whether they are in air freight or port or train or trucks, you have to have information. And you can imagine how huge, the data would be collected from each product, just to know where it exactly is, what condition is, and when it will be delivered, to the customer, and so on and so forth. And thanks to AI, I mean, this huge data can be collected and processed essentially using other related technologies, which I will talk about later, like the cloud computing, and analyzed. And that information can be accessed by all entities, the suppliers, the carriers, the manufacturers, the producers, freight forwarders, and even the consumers at the same time, in real time, and they would know where the product is, when it will be delivered, and what the status is, and so on and so forth. And that's really thanks to the artificial intelligence. And the next one, actually, the Internet of Things. Imagine when machines talk to each other, just like we talk to each other, through the internet, email, whatever, using internet. And that's exactly what's happening. From on each object or on each entity within the supply chain, there are what's called Iot Sensors embedded even in the containers or in the vehicles, or the product package and so on, and they provide real-time information again, to the players in the supply chain because of these sensors. One example: let's say you have trucks, and the truck is loaded, with a huge load, but each load within the truck can be accessed anywhere, anytime, and the producers or the carriers or the managers would know what the condition of those goods are. And that's really thanks to those sensors. Again, that information fits into the AI system and gets analyzed, and you can predict when and how it's going to be delivered. If there is issue on security or safety, you can easily catch it, and then it's very efficient. Actually, it saves money. So these technologies are already available, and they can be used in Africa, and that's what, in fact, AE Trade is basically aimed to. In order to develop a smart logistics, it has already created, actually, established innovative research and development center to make sure it will apply all these technologies as needed in its smart logistics system. The cloud computing, that's another thing, because it can store, and basically analyze, huge amount of data with ease. In fact, the AE Trade already has established, cloud computing system, which will start operating, for African entities. Sorry, I lost the screen. I apologize. Do you see it now? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, okay. I want to make sure, yeah, because my screen, froze because I didn't touch it. So AE Trade Group has a cloud computing center, actually. It's basically, it's going to serve the African ACFTA members, basically on emails and data analytics and storage and all those things, and that's very critical now. And blockchain is actually another technology which is really also transforming, the logistics and supply chain system. In short, what blockchain provides is really a transparency and connectivity, and it's very critical for safety, security, and avoids wastage, even corruption, theft, whatever that might happen around the customs or import-export area. And blockchain is basically working through all those previous technologies I mentioned. And there are a lot of movements now or organizations, and there's a lot of discussion even to implement in African. So AETRADE will be active player, in implementing actually that technology as well. So all these technologies as a group, are transforming logistics, fulfillment, and transportation services, which we can call smart logistics. And that's what we'll be working on as in AETRADE. All these require the system integration, supply chain connectivity, optimization, and that's really what drives the smart logistics. By optimization, meaning the delivery, the transportation, the fulfillment, the logistics, all those things have to be synchronized and optimized to make sure they are cost effective, and the data is used, for efficiency and delivery. So that's, without going into the details, it's really what we're talking about. For instance, the automated warehouse management system, it helps to understand, what you have in the warehouse, how you can manage it. And the next one is the inventory management system, whether you're going to run out of inventory or, do you have to order? You don't have to worry now to order being insecure, hundreds of things which you may not even sell. If you have the information, when and how they can be sold, and you have information, from the producer side or the consumer side, using these systems, you can basically plan, as you go in real time, and it's very flexible and saves a lot of money. The enterprise resource planning is another one. The accounting system, the invoice system, everything can be automated to save money and time. And these are all key enablers for smart logistics. The last one, which I included here, is a very interesting concept now, which is really what logistics and supply chain are moving in the future. It's what's known as production on demand and just-in-time delivery. You don't have to produce something that may not be consumed, or that may not be sold, or that may not be needed even in retail stores or in the warehouses or supermarkets. You can easily plan now and your production all the way to your supply on delivery, because you're following information. The key is basically making decision based on information. It's making a data-driven decision, which I talked about earlier. So that's really where the movement is, in the future. And customers, essentially, you can deliver it to them, whenever they need it. You don't want to produce it, or you don't want to store it in your warehouse or in your inventory if you're not sure you're going to deliver it tomorrow or a day after. So because we have transparency, because we have a lot of information already in our hands through these kinds of systems and the smart technologies, production can be done on demand, and delivery can be just in time delivery. And that's more and more going to be the future. Okay, so I know I spent considerable time on the smart logistics because we want to make sure we really understand in the context of trade and how it's going to help the special economic zones and implementation of the ACFTA. So this one, the next slide, basically highlights the contributions AETRADE group will make to advance trade and regional integration between the African special economic zones. AETRADE e-commerce will enhance cross-border trade facilitation using e-government. I think it's obvious, I mentioned it even earlier. Not only within a state, but across states. E-commerce has no limit, has no boundary, really. And it can enhance, essentially, trade facilitation between the SEZs and within the SEZs. The Sokuku, the AE Trade e-commerce marketplace, will make a more goods services in Africa tradable, enabling buyers and sellers to gain wide access to African and global market. I mentioned earlier, like, ordinary citizen in Africa from some remote area can really start some initiative to start a business and get access, more or less instantly to the African market or the world market through the e-commerce system. So, and this is really huge. It's a great opportunity for promoting business, trade, and changing the lives of many people. Essentially, it can attract, direct investment from outside, locally, and raise the incomes of many tradespeople in Africa. And this is thanks to e-commerce. And A-Trade will play a leading role actually to expand this in Africa. Provide a platform to connect consumers, informal traders, and SMEs, small and medium enterprises, with globally established international marketplaces. That's related to the first one. Essentially, the sky is the limit. Once you have good connections and good entrepreneurial skills, your market you can access the world market anywhere. It opened ways for Africa to be a global player in the e-commerce trade. So far, Africa hasn't been a global player in many ways in terms of e-commerce. There's huge untapped market in Africa, given even the population. The user population is growing, it's technology savvy, and Africa can play a huge role, but to really expand trade through this e-commerce system, and E-Trade will play a key role to make sure to advance that development. To stimulate trade, investment, economic growth, and employment in African economic zones, as I mentioned earlier. Promote regional integration and public-private partnership to advance AfCFTA. Develop African e-commerce ecosystem. Stimulate growth in online marketing. Enhance collaboration on warehouse logistics and transport infrastructure development. Enable African entrepreneurs to be competitive in the global marketplace. Now, what are the benefits in partnering with the AE Logistics and fulfillment, with the AE Trade Group Logistics and Fulfillment? Deliver efficient, integrated, and outstanding services that effectively meet the needs of our clients, including end-to-end, automated, transparent, and integrated supply chain solutions with continental market coverage. I discussed that in detail earlier. Operate large warehouse and distribution network across Africa. And that's another opportunity, for those entities like the 3PLs, for instance, who partner with the A-Trade, they will have a good opportunity to work with A-Trade, get exposure to large warehouses and distribution network across Africa. Supplies time-sensitive consignments, management and operation excellence with rapid implementation of, and minimal risk. Provide the right metrics for effective management. Provide impeccable after-sales service that brings value and competitive advantage at a commercial rate. Provide tailored solutions based on proven international best practices. Okay, specialized solutions that enable to maintain a controlled, cost-effective production flow, unsurpassed sector knowledge and logistics expertise to design and implement the right solutions for business and keep customers satisfied, costs under control, and help expand business and consumer network connections. These are all benefits partners can get actually from A-Trade. Because of its wide coverage, because of its smart logistics, and because of its warehouse network, and because of the operation and management of advanced fulfillment centers, they can benefit, getting all these services, plus, most importantly, access to wide market, African market, and even beyond that, a global market. This is even for businesses. Now, the AE fulfillment warehouse is an extension of the essentially the smart logistics. The map you're looking at actually keeps getting updated. These are the African countries which ratified the CFTA. To my knowledge, there are already over 30, and it keeps growing. You can see how the concentration is even in West Africa and other areas. So the AE fulfillment warehouses, there are, as I said, warehouse networks for AE trade group. They offer full and efficient services to CFTA ratified members, all those members we are looking at the map, implement latest technologies and systems as outlined above, which we discussed earlier. AE Trade Group will lead infrastructure development, not limited to an online marketplace, but also the construction of new fulfillment warehouses. Okay, it's not just establishing Sokuku, the Pan-African marketplace, but it participates also and it can lead, the construction of new fulfillment warehouses across Africa. The AE Fulfillment Warehouse is a subsidiary of the African E-Trade Group, and its vision is to develop and implement an empowerment program for SMEs, the small and medium enterprises, throughout the African continent. Its aim is to bring a grassroots transformation for sustainable economic development, cross-border trade, and economic integration. And that's essentially what the aim of the AE Fulfillment Warehouse is. It's a subsidiary of the AE Trade Group, but it has a lot of advantage to, especially to the SMEs who can get the opportunity to enter into the market without a huge capital outlay or initial investment. Once they are into the network, they will have an opportunity to get all the training and the help, the support, and so on to get their products out into the African or world market. AE Trade Group will also lead initiatives to encourage and support collaboration across the continent, including, this is very key because everything has to be done in collaboration. I mean, everything we mentioned earlier, the trade facilitation, the cross-border trade require collaboration, across SEZs and the states and so on. And it's really a great thing to have a very innovative and forward-looking company like AE Trade working in partnership with the African Union to help bring this kind of collaboration, public-private partnership, collaboration in warehouses, in fulfillment, and all these services we're talking about. So it's sharing and optimization the use of warehouse capacity and resources, lowering the barriers for merchants and service providers to collaborate and leverage the networks developed by the AE Trade Group, enhance the connectivity of various types of data infrastructure related to warehouse management system, transport management systems. I mean, the beauty of this collaboration is it's really broad, it's very diverse. Starting from the infrastructure area, so building the warehouse, sharing the warehouses, fulfillment, and so on, transport. But it goes even into the the development of the systems like the warehouse management system, the transportation management system. Essentially, AE Trade will be a catalyst to bring in public-private partnership and bring in the states together to develop these systems by working in partnership with the African Union on all other key stakeholders like UNCTAD and so on. Now, I'm going to go a little quickly in the interest of time. Yeah, I think I have still time. Now, the AE Fulfillment Group solutions, strengths, and capabilities. There are three categories here we're showing, platform, network, and support. And on the platform side, we have the single client-facing platform, the AE Fulfillment, which is an AE Trade Group platform, and synchronized with existing systems and warehouse of partners. That's the thing. I mean, we can develop interfaces to make sure we connect or in a network with the existing warehouses. I mean, the partners don't have to lose their autonomy, identity, whatever. It's really bringing the synergy of these partners in many areas, warehouse, fulfillment, transport, and so on, and working with the AE Trade continental network, and which they can benefit so much advantage, actually, so many advantages, as I mentioned earlier. So it just creating a whole big network, continent-wide network, by bringing together, these systems or entities. A single point of integration pre-built integrations with most common web platforms and African-wide, sorry, let me move this one. African-wide view of operations, orders, and inventory and extension to the global supply chain network. And then we have the network. On the network side, we have, as I said, African Global Warehouse Network, leverage partner network regardless of warehouse management system in use, warehouse contracts direct with the A-Trade group or partners you select. Fulfillment group has no financial stake in the physical operations. And on the support,
Abiyu, we have 1 more minute just to summarize before we close up this session.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I thought it was to 19. Yeah, I will summarize now. And then, yeah, let's go. I think this is the A-Trade group products and services. I will, you can see here, they're very, diverse, the multimodal digital logistics, air freight, sea freight, land freight, warehousing, all the way to the vehicle import and export. And the specialties and value-added services, I'm not going to go into details. I think we mentioned them, earlier. Most of them, the transportation management system, integrated transportation management system, warehouse management system, and the warehouse, all the way to the end-to-end supply chain solution for automotive logistics. This is, the picture tells itself, there will be a custom documentation and vehicle collection from port. This is, again, uses digital data and digital platform. This one, actually, the last one, I just want to say a few words. It's very interesting. It's really a smart warehouse network. Some of you might be aware, I'm sure, the Airbnb, which is bringing, people from all over the world. If they want to share their apartment, their houses, whatever, you can just online, into the online market. And if you want to travel to Europe, you don't have to necessarily go to hotels. You can get very effective, very cost-effective apartment or whatever. And then that company is doing very well, with this business model. You can do the same thing with warehouse network, and that's very key. If you have excess capacity, and you can use the A-Trade network, to rent it, to others. And the others, they don't have to invest money, to build a warehouse or expand their network. It's very flexible. So A-Trade would enable that kind of service and a smart warehouse network. And this is very important because it will connect the special economic zones also with dry ports, seaports, and airports to facilitate and interlink smart logistics network. Overall, as part of the strategic fulfillment service, we can provide the warehouse management system and inventory management system, which we mentioned earlier, through various technologies, including RFID, barcode control, and setup rack systems, and so on. So I'm going to show this contact address. I'm sure I went fast maybe on some of them, but if you need more information, and if you're interested, especially on our network, which we're registering now, already qualified and experienced companies, 3PLs, to be partner with us and get the benefits of a wider market in Africa. So you can contact me through this email address. We have also released actually expression of interest, a while ago, and we're receiving, from companies. So if you're interested, feel free to send me email or send your expression of interest to this address. And thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Berlie. Thank you for sharing your details, and thank you for this very diverse and rich presentation.